Alright everyone, let's turn to page 289 to solve and discuss it. It says Alex and Hope were trying to solve negative 6x is greater than 24. Whose inequality shows the solution? So we have Alex's here in blue and Hope's in red. So they both decide that it's going to be negative 4. They're going to divide to solve. But here's the thing that we're going to learn today is that when we solve these, and this is the biggest difference between adding and subtracting to solve inequalities versus division and multiplication. So we're going to go about it like we would if we were using a equation. So we do get negative 4 as they say, but when you're dividing or multiplying by a negative number or a negative coefficient with the variable, you have to flip the sign. So with that being said, we flip the sign and we can see that Hope's equation, or I'm sorry, inequality would be correct. Alright, let's turn over to page 290 for example 1.
How does using multiplication or division to solve an inequality compare to using the same operations to solve an equation? Think about this question during the lesson. Gina's pet pot-bellied pig is on a diet. It can have no more than 18
Alright, so keep that in mind. You can have no more than, which means it can have less than 18 or exactly 18
ounces of pig food per day. The bag's label says that each scoop holds 4 ounces of food. How many scoops can Gina feed the pig without going over 18 ounces?
Alright, so as we know, we're going to be looking at multiplication. So we'll probably have 4x is less than or equal to 18. Let's take a look.
Since the problem states that the pig can have no more than 18 ounces, we can write an inequality to represent the situation. The number of ounces per scoop times the number of scoops she feeds him must be less than or equal to the maximum daily number of ounces. Which part of the inequality is unknown?
Alright, what is unknown is our number of scoops.
The number of scoops is the unknown. Use the variable s to represent the number of scoops. Each scoop holds 4 ounces. The maximum daily number of ounces is 18. Why should the inequality use the symbol for less than or equal to?
Well, this is where we can get confused. It says it can have no more than, which means it's okay to have less than that or exactly 18.
The total can be equal to, but not greater than 18. You can solve the inequality just like you would solve an equation. Use the inverse relationship between multiplication and division and the division property of inequality to isolate the variable. The number of scoops, s, is less than or equal to 4 5/10, or 4 1/2.
Alright, let's take a look. So for this try, what we're going to do is just like we would with an inequality or with an equation. So I rewrite this over here. In order to solve, we're going to multiply 7 to both sides, which is a little less confusing here. So the inequality stays the same because it's not a negative number that we're multiplying by, so it's going to stay the same. These cancel out. Inequality stays the same as I said. We multiply this, we get 105. Alright, and then the next part they're going to want us to graph that. Alright, so we know that it's at 105. Alright, we set it equal to 105. Alright, it's going to be an open circle because there's no line underneath, and it should be pointing to the right because our inequality sign, as you look here in the original, was pointing to the right. We're not flipping it. Alright, so that's what your graph should look like. Okay, let's turn over to page 291 to look at example 2. It says solve the inequality negative 3.4m is less than or equal to 17, and then we'll graph this. Alright, so what we're going to have is we're going to put our negative 3.4 here, and then we have our 17 here. Alright, and our original is going to be this. Okay, our original is this, so this is the original equation. We're going to divide by negative 3.4 for both sides. Now take note, when we're dividing both sides by a negative, this inequality right here now gets flipped the opposite way. Alright, so if we go to the next part, we can see that that's exactly what they did. They flipped it. and we get negative 0.5, or m is greater than or equal to negative 5. Okay. Now we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to let's flip this. We have 19.2. All right, on the one side, and then we're going to have that equation where we get x. Let me write this in. So I'm going to do the math for you, x, and we would flip it. So what ends up happening is that we have it going back to its original after all the flipping that's done. All right, and when we solve it, it's negative 7.8. Right, and then in our graph, we should see that we're going to be at negative 7.8. All right, let's get it precise there. It's going to be an open circle, right, because there's no line underneath, and it'll be shaded to the right. Right, so that's that graph. The next one, we're dividing by a negative again. All right, so what's going to happen here is that our inequality sign will be flipped, right, because we're multiplying or dividing by a negative, so it gets flipped that way. All right, after we do the math, I'll tell you the answer that it's 19. All right, so when we go to graph this, it's going to be a closed circle on 19. Let's see that. We don't even have an option to put a negative. All right, it's going to be, it's going to be an open circle, and it's pointing to the right, so our graph should look like that.